And if all the buttons that 5 years ago Rusty set up are working, we are streaming. So what I'll do, Jeremy, is I'll tweet this out, and there'll be a link in it, and you'll be tagged in the tweet too. So
cool.
that should give you the YouTube portion.
Now this is stuff that can be documented. So
now we're on the record.
There goes my political career. I can feel it now.
Right? YouTube doesn't. They don't seem to care as much about language, as long as you're not being like targeting a particular group of people. So it's kind of, it's a little bit more free flowing. Like once we hit live, we'll go ahead and tame her down, just like we're in high school English class, where maybe a word comes out here or there, but for the most part, it's pretty chill.
Sherwin, you sound a little froggy today. You under the weather, or just still recovering from the New Orleans trip?
Well, 5 days in New Orleans will get anybody a little froggy.
That's a lifetime. Wow, impressive.
Yeah. You know what? It was 2 nights at the piano bar that did it. I lost my voice both nights.
I can see that
and David, the producer, smokes cigarettes, and I may have smoked 1 or 2 of his cigarettes.
That can happen there, I've noticed. It somehow just happens.
Yeah, it's one of those. I don't know, man. I was in New Orleans, and cigarettes and whatever else. I don't know, whatever.
I think you're supposed to break the rules when you're in New Orleans. Like,
there are no rules in New Orleans.
Once or twice.
Not really.
So you're fine. You're talking about piano guy. I had a guy who worked for me at Windows who had started out as a cruise ship entertainer, and he ended up ended up on my Windows team as a product marketer. And so we travel all over. In fact, traveled the world with him. And so I had my own piano player wherever we went. The guy was fantastic. He would just get up on stage, have the whole crowd going. So it was a lot of fun.
So I'd love a good piano bar, especially a dueling piano bar.
Yeah, those are awesome. I love
it. Like, it was so neat, and it was like karaoke. I mean, you just put in, they had a song list, and you put one in, and they were all over the map. I mean, they were.
I love that stuff.
Jimi Hendrix to Metallica, Poison to Taylor Swift. I mean, they were everywhere. They knew everything.
That's cool. It's wild to me how much talent that takes to do that, and the fact that talent being brought to a bar for just silly entertainment. It's like I'm not saying that's a waste by any means. It's awesome for people like me to go enjoy, but it's amazing that that's where the talent went to.
No, I've always admired that too. Yeah. Seriously, you watch those guys and night after night be able to do that, and not only just play the piano, just put on a show like they do. It's awesome.
Right. Okay, let's see. I think we're about ready to get started. We don't want to hold you out too much longer there, right, Jeremy. So
let's say, what does Jeremy know? He doesn't know what he's getting into, right? So
I blame Brent.
Well, no, it's okay. Well, so if you're friends with Brent, you're good people. Brent's been a friend of ours for a couple of years, and we finally had him on the show about 3 weeks ago, and he's super go with the flow, but that's obviously how I managed to wander my way into your space.
Yeah, that's great.
I started reading about you, and I was like, man, this guy, I don't know. He's right up our alley. Like, he likes fast cars, but he's like a nerd.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we do. That's our niche.
Yeah,
we're just nerdy and like race cars.
Yeah,
a small group of us, but we're here. Huh?
Yeah. That's a computer science degree from Georgia Tech right there. Like, that's not to show off.
So
that's just to say that's.
Here's the problem, though. You're going to see right through me then. So you've got that. So I'm not really a tech guy. I was in like marketing and product marketing and sales and stuff.
Well, that's what's so intriguing about this. And I tried to come up with some like crossover questiony type of stuff because me and Sherwin are both STEM. Sherwin's in textile engineering, and I'm in computer science. And so marketing is a total, like, that's, I see our marketing people, and I'm like, y'all are cool. Y'all do stuff that I don't know what that is. And they look at me, and they're like, I don't know, you make computers do your bidding. So,
Like, yeah, no, I've been lucky enough through my career to have a crossover role. So I've been really close to technology, always served on technology leadership teams, whether it's at T-Mobile or AT&T Wireless or Microsoft. So I got to hang out with you smart folks and, and just bring the market and the customer to bear in that. So I've always played a role in between, but yeah, I'm definitely, anybody who knows me will tell you I am not really a technologist by any means.
Well, cool. We'll get started here. You'll hear me screaming and yelling and doing all kinds of intro stuff, and then I'll bring Sherwin on, and then Jeremy, I'll bring you on. It's all pretty standard stuff, loose, hang out, have fun. I don't know if Brent told you anything. If he didn't tell you anything, then that's even better.
Oh no, I've been doing my homework. I'd let my dog out of the office here, but I was listening, so I got some background. Right. I'm not going to come on cold.
All right, sweet. Well, looking forward to it. Sherwin, you ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Jeremy, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, well, here goes nothing. We're recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is a Pregame Engineer Tug Game Air Racing Podcast, episode number 285. It's Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors. And as always, the podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie. Get some stickers. Best part is, every cent this year, we're once again just going to give it away. Donate it to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. And now the part that I tried to do at the beginning and then going to do now. This show brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. Here we go. Aaron Bidden, Robert Kevin, Coleman, Clay, Merritt, Kevin, Ryan, Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brennan Crowell, Catherine McDonald, Brennan Carl, Rika Porter, Julie Bosley, Eddie Greer, Thurn, Younger Motorsport, Dave Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brent Morris, Chris Smoke, Fred Rosado, Chad Knapp, Stacey Coleman, Lisa Chinana, Rick Houston, Sarah and Barry, Evan Roller, Matthew Bishop, Harry Bolzana, AJ Evangelista, Janet Scott, Les Miller, and Jumpy Bob. Woo! And big shout out, by the way, I think I just got the email in a few minutes ago that Lisa Chinana has upped her patronage to $10 a month from $5. So, Lisa, I don't know if what we do is worth $10 a month, but we appreciate you doing that. And it's all, once again, going to sponsoring drivers. As soon as folks get back to the track and everything, we've got a little small mountain of money, don't we?
I think I know why that may have happened.
She lose a bet to you?
No, I didn't lose a bet or win one. No, Brandon and I were talking about being pretty well committed to going to Pocono. Like, Brandon's already looked up Airbnb. He's got some stuff with work going on he's got to sort out. And I was like, you let me know when that's sorted out, and I'll buy the plane ticket to Scranton Wilkes Bar, and we're going to do it. It's a done deal. We're going to Pocono. So you tell me if you want to go, buddy.
All right. Well, what does that have to do with
Airbnb we're looking at has 2 bedrooms. It's got one with 2 singles and one with a double.
What does that have to do with Lisa Chinana?
She lives in Pennsylvania, and she will be at Pocono.
Excellent. That's awesome. Great to hear. We all have already heard his voice in the PTM North Carolina studio. Pregame engineer Andrew Sherwin. Dude, how you been?
That's right, North Carolina. So I'll take a moment. Your enemies in retirement become people that you start to respect career-wise. So I want to shout out to Roy Williams for retiring from the University of North Carolina basketball program. Fantastic career. Hated playing against you. Respect what you did, my man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, time to bring onto the show first timer on the PTM podcast. He's president of GBK Collective, alumnus of Microsoft and T-Mobile, marketing guru, NASCAR aficionado, on Twitter at KorstJ. It's Jeremy Korst. Jeremy, what's happening?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Awesome.
And by the way, former Grand Marshal of Pocono. So the first thing I will say in the show is there's no Airbnb. It's all infield boys.
Well, so cool. I hear you. Once we get all this other extraneous things figured out, I mean, we had 25 people lined up to go last year, and then somebody dropped a virus out of the damn sky. So we didn't get to go. But yes, I hear you. Infield, I want to be down by turn 1 and raising hell.
So
that is the place.
Jeremy, your accolades, just like we talked about with Brent Dewar recently, former NASCAR president and PETM alum. So these are, this can go Grand Marshal, head of marketing for Microsoft, and PETM alum. Like these things, we hand out certificates.
They're on equal billing.
Yeah, it's like, no, hey, it's going. I'm gonna have to get new business cards.
Well, you have to come back and get your master's, and then your PhD, and your professor emeritus.
Now we're talking.
We usually wait till the end to ask you to make sure you're not super offended. But Jeremy, we do offend our guests by starting off asking the same question every time. What you drinking tonight?
So tonight I've got, I'm pretty much an equal opportunity drinker, as my buddies will tell you, but tonight I decided to go for a Maker's Mark Manhattan on the rocks.
Well done, sir.
My man.
All right.
It's almost like you knew I was in New Orleans over the weekend.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Sherwin, what you got for us?
Well, it's Taco Tuesday, so I've got a Dos Equis Amber.
Sir, I reached back and still had a few. We're Dos Equis brothers tonight. I've
All
got
right.
the
Cheers,
lager.
buddy.
You've got the amber. Cheers. Let's get going. Guys, I've got a little story to tell to start us off. This happened earlier today, and I don't know if anybody from my work will be listening, but if they are, please don't tell HR. So here's what went down, okay? So I'll set the scene for you. We've got a team chat. We use Slack, and Slack has different channels and stuff, and so, you might have your developers in one channel and your QA team in another channel and everybody in some other channel just to be able to talk to each other and coordinate and whatnot, right? Well, in Slack, you can do the normal team chat things. One of those things you can do is emojis. So somebody says something funny and you can like slap a laughy face, or somebody says something you agree with and you give them thumbs up or whatever. But you can also create custom emojis, right? And so your team can have custom ones, like, a dumpster on fire. We have that one just because it's funny. Like, the build server's down again, dumpster fire, ha, 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 right? Well, one of them today that I had not seen before was this one called Shame. And that was the name of the emoji. And I looked at it, and I was like, what is that? And it looked like this nun. And it was a nun in, like, a gray hood or whatever. Now, Jeremy, do you know where I'm going with this?
Well, I grew up Catholic, so I'm waiting.
Okay. I think some people in the PTM posse are going to see where this is going soon, okay? So what do? I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to look up what that is. So I do a reverse image search in Google to find out what image it is, and apparently it's Game of Thrones related, right?
Oh.
Now, I'm not, maybe...
Lisa called it out, by the way, on YouTube. She already knew what you were going to do.
LOLGOT. She sure did. Shame. She's saying it. So in Game of Thrones, here's something Rusty didn't know, right? So I search YouTube. I go to YouTube. I'm like, Game of Thrones, Shame. I'm just curious, like what it is. I'm trying to be hip with everybody, right? I'm trying to understand this stuff. Well, turns out what they do in Game of Thrones is if you have done something to offend the village, I guess I don't know how this stuff works, guys. I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
It's like the Scarlet Letter or something.
Oh, so what they do is they have that lady, the nun lady, walk down the road with a bell, and she's ringing the bell, ding, 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 and she just goes, shame, shame, and while doing that, okay, the person who is being shamed has to walk in front of her. Now, here's what old Rusty didn't know, and that we don't want folks to tell HR. On my 24-inch monitor, when they walk down the street, they have to do it butt naked.
Oh, goodness.
There's some woman, because she's ringing the bell, shame, shame, and they switch cameras, and on my 24-inch monitor, there is full frontal of this woman, and I'm going, what in the world? Come on, Game of Thrones, what have you done to me? So I've...
Good excuse.
Yeah, that's the excuse. Old Rusty was apparently watching adult flicks on...
You just say, I didn't know. I honestly...
That's the thing.
I didn't know.
Here's... If you're not up on pop culture references, I don't know if people are going to believe me either, right? Like, they're like, oh yeah, sure, you never watched Game of Thrones. I'm like, no, I actually never did. I'm sorry, I didn't know the shame thing. I was just looking it up. Come on. So,
right, there's plausible deniability.
That's
in that, like, because I'm the same. So, Jeremy, just for a goof, I'll tell you a very brief story. I walked in. So Rusty and I used to do this podcast with us right across the table from each other back when we both lived in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I walked in one night. Yep, right over there. That was my chair. And Rusty's wife has decided to reboot Game of Thrones. Like they didn't watch every episode, or she has watched every episode. She's like, I'm gonna start over. Starting over with episode 1. I walk in the door, and there's brother and sister doing things brother and sisters ought not do. And somebody got thrown off a roof, and I was like, I am out. I don't want anything to do with this. I already knew I didn't want to watch this, and now I know I don't want to watch this. I watched about 30 seconds of it, and I was like, I think we have a podcast to do. I'm going upstairs.
Oh, man. There you go. Major HR violations. Jeremy, it's great to have you on the show. Hopefully you're having fun.
Yeah, it does great already.
Well, you know this is a NASCAR podcast because of course we have to talk golf. Are you a golfer, Jeremy?
I have a let's say a liberal interpretation of the sport.
Okay, I think we are well aligned in this respect. But did either one of y'all get
drinking activity that involves striking a small ball and then trying to go find it? Because that's what it is for us.
Okay, so I mean, since we're talking NASCAR and golf, so part of my experience, getting involved directly with NASCAR is when I was at Microsoft, I had to ask me to exec sponsor a couple of accounts, and we can talk about that later. But anyways, I was exec sponsor of NASCAR and PGA Tour, and so I got to spend time out on the greens with some pretty good folks, and out on the on the infield with some others. And I just say that my golf game is a lot better for the NASCAR crowd than it is the PGA Tour crowd.
That checks out.
So I thought it was really cool, having followed golf for so long. Hideki Matsuyama taking the green jacket this weekend, and in pretty dramatic fashion toward the end there. It got a little dicey, but I thought that was cool to see, Sherwin.
Yeah, well, he put it in the drink on 15, right, and gave up 2 strokes.
Yeah.
It was... Yeah. No, I mean it's cool. Japanese man's never even led the Masters, much less won it. So
that was surprising to me.
There's some history there for sure.
Yeah, given the the culture and the golfers come from Japan.
Oh yeah, there's like more golf courses in Japan than there are like in the United States, and it's like the size of California. It's absurd. They like golf in Japan.
So, Jeremy, why don't you tell us, I like to start this for first-time guests. What's your NASCAR story? What got you into it?
So I started in fact, a lot of people in NASCAR don't know this. I was a team owner at age 16.
Oh, my gosh.
Goodness.
It was right after Days of Thunder. I came back. I spent a summer in Alaska working my butt off, came back with a wad of cash, and my buddies and I decided we were buying a race car, and we were going to go race at the 3/8 Clay Oval about 20 minutes away from home. So went out and bought an old Dodge Dart, got it all souped up and ready to go, and come to find out none of our parents would let us drive. So had to go out and hire a driver. So we went out and found an 18-year-old, and he became our driver. And, long story, but let's just say it was a short story, actually, at the end of the day. And quickly learned that it's a lot better to have friends that owns a race team than your own race team, because that is an expensive sport. So
true story.
Right. Right. No.
So anyway, that was back in the day. That was a lot of fun, though. We were kind of motorheads back in the day, put together, rebuilt a 1969 Chevy and all this stuff. And anyways, fast forward, college life, etc. I'd actually fallen outside of NASCAR, hadn't really watched it or anything. And then fast forward to my time at Microsoft. I'd been there before. I came back second time and was leading Windows marketing. And like I said, they'd asked me to exec sponsor a couple accounts, and I had one of my guys, Jason Campbell, who's well known to a lot of NASCAR folks too, come into my office, and he had a stack of these contracts with all kinds of different airlines and banks. It was all interesting. And then towards the bottom, he didn't know me very well yet. I just come back. He goes, and there's this new contract with NASCAR. Yeah, I'll take that one. It just sounded so interesting. So anyways, that was my entry. So I dove in. I got to go first race of the Charlotte race. I will forget how many years ago. Not too long ago, though. It's been the last 6-8 years. Got to go spend with Robbie Benton and his Xfinity team at the time. That was my first big race at Charlotte. And I was hooked. absolutely hooked. I think I was at 12 or 13 races that year after that.
Wow.
That is cool. It sounds like you and us were at Charlotte right around the same time. We've only been the one time, and it was, when was that, Rusty? 2014?
What's my shirt say?
It says Coke 600, so obviously
is there a date?
commemorating the experience.
Is there a date back there?
But yeah, no, I think it was 2014 when we went to Charlotte the first time. Yeah, I mean, it to your point, I think where you were kind of headed with that, Jeremy, is there is no substitute for actually seeing the thing happen in person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And go, oh, okay, this is something wildly different. Like football's awesome, baseball's awesome, tennis, golf, whatever it is that you like. When you see race cars doing race car stuff live, like it just changes the game. If you like cars.
It's the whole experience. And of course, those of us are involved. All of us say what you just said, right? Is that how do we get the experience, that track experience out to more people, because we know there would be so many more fans. And, frankly, it's the cars, it is the teams or the drivers who are approachable and engaging with the fans. It's us, those of us that are at the race. Everybody is friendly and having a good time. And it's the whole experience. And, when I, with my Windows team, because we ended up sponsoring, we became partner of Hendrick Motorsports and sponsored Dale Jr. and did some other work with some of the other drivers there. We had the opportunity to go to a lot of races and have some activations for the Windows brand. And it became a joke at my team and the surrounding team at Microsoft is who can go to a race and not become a fan. And I can't think of one person who won that bet.
Right.
Everybody that went, every culture, didn't matter where they were from, didn't matter. They were fans when they came back. And that's just the experience.
I love it. I got goosebumps thinking about that. And I, especially with like the merch haulers and everything, then you go down there and you're like, well, I got to get me a hat. We talk about hats way too much on the show, but and I see you got your Hendrick hat.
Oh, I've got all kinds. In fact, I sit here depending. I've got my Windows hat. I got my Pocono hat here. I've got my.
Oh, I like that Pocono hat. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I know my Pocono hat. That was my snowmobile hat this year. That was everywhere I snowmobile in that hat.
Oh,
that's awesome. We actually have created a digital friendship with some of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Pocono is one of my favorite places on earth. The Dowskis and Ben and Kevin and the whole team there. It is a highlight of my year to go to Pocono.
Kevin's actually been on our show before.
I think he's on the chat wall there. I see Pocono Raceway. Nice hat in the chat.
Oh, look at him go! Yeah,
yeah.
That's cool.
That is such. I mean, seriously, I know Brent recommended it to you guys too, and you guys have talked about going. But
absolutely.
Talk about a mix of. I took my son there. I hang out with some guys, trackside Chef Joel and Willie Ochmoody, and some guys who bring all their family, and it's amazing. You just have fun with your kids. They all have fun. You can have kids. You have fun as adults. It is an awesome experience. I highly recommend it.
I'm going to need to find me one of those Windows 10 hats because I think I'll get some street cred at work and working at a software shop.
I will hook you up. I know some folks.
I'll buy it.
All right.
I got to figure out where
it's that easy.
Done. We'll figure that out. Done.
Yeah. To your point though, to go a little deeper than that, you're 100% right. For anyone that has ever loved like what football is, like obviously being from the Southeast like we are, football is king. Even if your team isn't the best one around, it's still a big part of what the college experience is and then the post-college experience. What NASCAR is it's a college football game for 3 days.
Right.
Like you don't have to worry about 3 hours where you're like, I got to get everything in. We got to pack this thing up. We got to get set up. We got to pack it out. And NASCAR, you don't do that. You just take your time. You set it up as you go, your beers, and then 2 days later you leave.
Right.
Yeah, you better be ready, baby, because you're in for the long haul. By the time you get to the race, wow, this has been a long, fun weekend.
Jeremy, now that I'm thinking about it, this is where I might have to call in the favor because I can probably find a Windows 10 hat. But if you've got a Windows 95 hat, now I'm getting super street cred.
Might be able. I do not have one, but I know
Well,
folks.
it looked like he had something that had Windows and Dell Jr. on it. That might be of interest.
Yeah, so that's the 80. Well, we sponsored Junior in the first run.
I remember that car.
There you go. So that was a lot of fun.
Y'all nailed the paint scheme on that one. That just the blue and white. That's fantastic. Yeah,
so he, as Junior talks about a lot, he is very involved in his livery design, and I will say he's very involved. So that was Junior's design, and I remember my team brought it to me to approve it, and I was like, I don't really have any ability to do anything other than approve it. So okay, yeah.
I love it.
I mean, if Junior knows his brand better than most people probably know his brand. So whatever helps his brand is going to help your brand.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just ride the lightning, guys. I'm going with it. Whatever he wants.
So we talked about it a little bit on what I call the pre-show, where we just sort of chatted before we went live on YouTube and everything. But you're sitting here talking to a couple of engineers/scientists on this side of the mic, and we're super interested in what goes on your side of the mic there, and especially the STEM crossover that we were talking about before too, because you've been involved in engineering and technology companies this whole time. What have I guess from your perspective was the technology side something you gravitated toward, or was that something that just sort of fell in your lap and you found your place there?
Yeah, no, it was accidental. I was liberal arts, economics, and politics. Ended up going to business school back east. Got my MBA. So I ended up looking for a job. I was looking for a job in strategy and product management, and just ended up in technology. Frankly, and so it was really fortuitous that I did, because I get bored easily. I like fast pace. I like fast cars, and so as you guys know, being in tech, that's the place to be for that type of environment. And so that worked really well. And mostly what I've done over my career is work with really smart folks like you to help build and take to market really compelling and exciting products. And it's been fun. I get to do that now. Now I'm a consulting company. I'm a partner in a consulting company. We work with Apple and Amazon and Microsoft and other brands to do a bunch of strategy work, and so still get to have a lot of fun in it.
Yeah, that's it's super cool, and I want to learn so much about that side of it, just because again, it's something that I'm not involved in on a day-to-day basis. One thing I was thinking about in writing up our show notes, what is it like for your wife or family or something to watch commercials with you? Are you one that's going, come on?
No, this is a really good, like you guys are talking about in engineering or technology, the differences. And so I suck. I am not a branding guy. So okay. I'm not creative. I can barely dress myself. Okay? So, and my wife would be watching this and go, yeah, that's exactly right. So if you look at the marketing, I'm in the world of marketing strategy. So I'm better at working with technologists and product and the strategy side. Who's your customer? What's their unmet need? What price are they willing to pay, et cetera? Okay. And then after we work on the strategy, then I can turn that over to the actual creative folks who then go out and do the magic of advertising. And that's where I'm just in awe. So I'm in the middle where I'm looking at the folks who are building the product, just in awe of what they're able to do. Then the people on the other side who are creating all these amazing advertisement stuff. I get to be in awe on both sides.
Yeah. That's super cool. From your perspective then, what are some things, talk about NASCAR? Well, I think it took us however long this is to start talking NASCAR, but what are some things that you think, you're looking from the outside going, hey, NASCAR's doing this right. And what are maybe some things that you're like, hey, man, maybe NASCAR ought to try this or that?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the sport. I think that there's a lot of really good energy. I think some of the changes that Phelps and team have done are just really, and I got to know Steve some when we were with Microsoft. I think he was chief marketing officer at the time before he moved on to where he's doing now, and the whole team, it's not just Steve's whole team. I think realizing to really embrace the core fan, but then understand that we still need to move the sport forward. And so we still need to try new things. We need to make it interesting. There's all kinds of changes that are coming. So I'm excited. I'm excited about, I don't think that every move that's made is the right move. I like trial and error. And heck, we're in technology, right? Trial and error is name of the game. So
absolutely,
you're not always be right. But I'm excited about the momentum. I think that the COVID time that we had, of course, a horrible time, but I think the way that NASCAR performed and our sport performed during that time was just awesome. It allowed us to, whether it's eNASCAR and some of the new format and midweek races, got a whole new audience of people. I know I'm talking to people now at work and other places who before had not been talking about the sport. So I'm really bullish and excited about it. There's some things. I have one real big issue.
Here we go.
One really big issue as a marketer that I am very concerned about, and that's the single lug wheel. So that's the one where I feel like we may be making a really, really, really big misstep. I was sitting there just listening to Martinsville this weekend, and I mean, what do you hear? Even if you're not a NASCAR fan, you hear a pit stop and you hear that gun going, it's NASCAR. I mean, that is brand. That is our brand. And so from a marketing strategist, not only just a fan, I love the human element of the pit stop and the whole team having to work together to get it out. And, the experience I've been able to have with Hendrick Motorsports and some of my friends there, I mean, I just really, really appreciate that. But then from a marketing strategy perspective, beyond that, it's like, wow, to give up that emblematic experience is just painful to me. So anyway, bullish overall, but so painful about the
So and this is where it gets weird, because you being on the marketing side of whatever this equation is that we're talking about, this is where all that comes from. Is the reason for the single lug for the 2022 car, if we actually do go to it next year, sounds like we're probably still going to do that, is they want to go to aluminum wheels because they want this cool looking wheel. So whatever the young crowd is goes, man, that's a cool looking wheel. And the problem is with 5 studs, if you miss one on an aluminum wheel, you will break that wheel.
True. Yeah, so you know what? I've had a lot of conversations in my life with, as the Fox strategy guy with the technologists, right? Saying like, here's the market requirements. Market requirements, if we need to come up with a cool looking wheel that has five lugs. So now let's put our head together and figure that out. It doesn't have to be aluminum necessarily.
Well, the irony is, the street car that you like the wheel design that's powder coated aluminum, has 4 or 5 studs on it. Yeah. It's not a single lug.
Yeah.
So why do we need that for NASCAR? And unless you figure out how to put more gas in it in 12 seconds than we currently do, you're just going to watch these guys run back across the wall while the gas can man's just holding gas.
Yeah. So, I go to, I'm lucky enough to go to some F1 races, and so I get to see some of the other sports and NHRA. So I love it all. I'm an equal opportunity guy. NASCAR is my home. I love that the most. But I will say, because of that, when you go to an F1 race, so many people talk about this. It's so true. It's just not the same. It is not the same with those pit stops. So
well, it's not for a couple different reasons. I mean, those cars are absolutely beautiful. The way they corner at the speeds that they corner is fascinating. And that's why I will on occasion watch it. But the fact that they never have to fuel the car, I'm like, well, this is so much different than NASCAR. It's different enough for me to go, okay, I appreciate what's happening right here. I appreciate the technology and the money spent on the car, but I'm like, the experience may not be what I'm looking for. I want to see all those guys running around. Maybe they're doing something a little bit different, they went through a couple different iterations of choreography with pit crews where like one guy would put the first tank in and then the right rear changer would come around and he grabbed the gas tank, and the gas tank guy would change the left, there's all kinds of stuff that they were doing.
That's the fascinating part, right? And as we've made some crew changes over the last, couple seasons and stuff, you see that choreography change. And for those of us who watch it closely, that is a huge part of the sport.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it made a huge difference when they took away the catch can man.
Yeah.
Which where they were able to do by having the closed loop fuel system where it plugs in and it seals itself, where it used to just plug in and go, gas might go everywhere, we're not sure what's happening around here.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is who knows what kind of can of worms this opens up, but it's KPIs, or we'll say measures for success in your mind on different like marketing campaigns or how things go. One thing that I thought about recently was I was reflecting on, I will say I think it was a Super Bowl commercial or something that I saw, and it was this was probably more than a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago now, but they did this whole before the word meme was really around, they did this whole meme commercial, and Burt Reynolds was in it, and there was some dude in a bear costume, and some dude got kicked between the legs, and I thought it was the most hilarious commercial I've ever seen. The whole point was just to be silly with it, but I can't tell you for the life of me what the
product was.
What the product was.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. What's the recall?
Yeah.
On
Now on the flip side of that, the recent campaign with Busch Beer. What do we all know? Crack a beer and Busch. Yeah. And I'm like, that is genius. They have their name in the meme or in the thing that they're doing. And so I don't know. I'm a marketing novice, but those two things that I thought of, what was something that I remember from a long time ago, but I remember the thing, but I don't remember the product versus something like that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base, but curious, your thoughts on those type of things, Jeremy.
No, so my thoughts are, and I have this debate with some really smart chief marketing officers who are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising like this. And so I'll say it's a constant debate, but my personal belief, and I think you gave two great examples, is, hey, you can go out with a gimmick and maybe have some people, just like you said, remember some of your advertisement. Maybe even if you're lucky, remember your brand. But I'm not sure that makes them actually go make any decision. Whereas if you can actually embrace your target customer, understand what that target customer is about, what they want, the way that they live, the way they make decisions, and be able to communicate to him or her directly, then you really do it. And I think Busch is a great example. I'm glad you brought that example up, because I think Busch has done an amazing job of just, embracing their inner redneck, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, I drink Busch Light now. Good Busch Latte, right?
Yes.
It's like, wow, here is a brand that really knows what they mean. I'm going to talk directly to my target customers. I'm not going to worry about anybody else, and I'm going to embrace that. And so that's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with this crowd, it being as loyal to the consumer product industry as NASCAR fans typically are. It's just the right angle at the right time and the right approach. I mean, just a dude in a red and black flannel shirt and some Wranglers going, Busch.
Right.
It's great.
Like, and then like the guy that was like, I didn't even see him over there, and he's like, that's kind of what camo does. Like, moving on.
I'm not sure if you guys seen the Busch Latte man from Minnesota or wherever it is, the whole YouTube and stuff's going on. I mean, they cultivate then this whole system of their customer that just creates all this amplification beyond their commercials. And that's really the key. And by the way, if we take this to sponsors and brands, because I'd often get this question, whether it's people in NASCAR or outside of NASCAR, is why don't these big brands come into NASCAR and put their brand on a car? And I'll tell you, I had a multi-billion-dollar marketing budget, and I still had to justify every single dollar that I spent on anything, including NASCAR.
Yeah.
And you had to really set that up. And so, people, and all marketers and chief marketing officers are having to do that. So it's really tough. And by the way, of course, it's really expensive to get your brand on a car. But then you've got to think about, well, wait a minute, that's not enough. I've also got to activate on digital. I've got to have my TV commercial. I've got to do something at the track. And so you multiply that 2 or 3 times. It's a huge investment.
Yeah.
So
your point on that, sorry to interrupt you, Rusty, but I've I've caught some flack recently over my perspective on where NASCAR needs to try to focus their energy in terms of developing marketing for teams, or at least opening opportunities, is because your number one activation opportunity is a consumer who can purchase your product at wherever they purchase products. And so if you're marketing a piece of software for a business, they don't connect with that. You know, I mean, most of us have used Windows because we've all had an IBM-based computer at some point in our life. Or, you know, with Macintosh, everybody's got, I mean, I got iPhones running out of my shorts over here. I got three. I can see 3 iPhones right now.
I have an iPhone propping up this laptop right now so that it stays cool.
Even me.
I'm dead serious.
So your number one, I mean, activation is the thing that they spend the most on in terms of getting. Can I get my customers in a really cool booth? Can I get them in the pits? Can they meet a driver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But your number one activation is, can I get dude who saunters up with his cutoff shirt and his jean shorts and his flip-flops, you know, and can I get him to buy my product? Because that's your activation. Can that person go buy your product? And that's where Busch is in a good position.
Right.
That's where Miller Lite's been in the past, Budweiser's been in the past,
Right.
I can go buy this. Or like Home Depot. Rednecks are known for fixing stuff. Same thing with Lowe's. I can go to Home Depot and I can buy any tool I need to fix whatever or tear up whatever. You know how it goes. But, you know, you can't go buy an Eris. You know, like, I don't, router, that comes from the internet company. I don't even, I don't know what that is. You know, like,
now what I will say, because I've been involved in a lot of different sports, and what I will say, you're dead on, number one, you're spot on. In fact, when we got involved in Windows, the reason why this was relevant and strategic for Windows is the time when we were launching Windows 10, you guys will probably remember, is we're trying to upgrade a bunch of people from Windows 7.
Yep.
That was a key motion for us. It was a free upgrade. And so if you looked at the time of the customers who had Windows 7, a lot of them were NASCAR demographic. And so it made total sense for us as a brand to come in there and tell that story. And by the way, the ROI was huge for us because the strategy was right. But now, you know, what you're saying, Andrew, is about some of these brands that are not direct consumer engagement. What I think some brands may not take advantage of enough is the B2B aspect of it, the business to business aspect of it. And you kind of hinted on that when you were talking around coming down the pits and stuff. I'll tell you, you know, when you go to the Super Bowl or you go to the Masters, you know, the sports have a really well set up, you know, high-end VIP, you know, you're whining and dining and signing big contracts. I'll tell you, I have brought some very high level, you know, Fortune 100 execs to NASCAR, and they have loved it. I mean, loved it because it's so unique and the experience so unique. But that doesn't happen a lot, right? Outside of Daytona, you know, Daytona 500, there's a lot of execs walking around and stuff. Anyways, I think it's an untapped, not untapped, but actually some really fertile ground for some of these brands to actually do better engagement and bring in some of these VIPs and give them, you know, our NASCAR experience that's pretty unique.
Well, to your point on that, and I'm not poo-pooing the idea of B2B relationships being what the primary role is for sponsors in the sport but it is getting that extra, that whatever that umbrella of activation is, even within the company that says, I'm going to write a check for this amount of money so I can be on this car. You need that person to walk through the garage, and when they're doing not carb check anymore, but, you know, fuel injection check, where they're testing RPM levels and they crank the car up and fire it up to, you know, 8,000 RPM to make sure that it's still running.
Yeah.
You need that guy or that gal to go, holy shit, that is so cool. I don't even know what's going on. It's loud, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that perspective.
No, that's right. I mean, the number of people I've asked, like, well, wait a minute, the brand exposure is so much. Like, brand exposure is cheap. I'm not paying much for brand exposure. I am paying to, like you guys are saying, is to have somebody take some action, whether that's sign a B2B contract or to buy a product or to upgrade Windows. There's got to be something that comes out of it.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective, and maybe one that I hadn't thought about was, maybe there's this, I don't know, $10 million deal here, or maybe $100 million deal here with a B2B experience versus what would I call it? $1 million $1 deals with a consumer brand. Not something I've thought of before. And one thing I was thinking about before with what we were talking about was NASCAR fans are very impressionable, and Sherwin was kind of talking about that. I mean, Sherwin, how many Budweisers did we drink when Casey Kane was? Well, it was after that car, but
by the way, Washington State, Casey Kane.
There you go. Yeah.
Enum Claw.
Enum Claw,
yeah.
Right. I love it.
And
very
many,
much.
And
so we were Casey Kane junkies.
How many Budweisers have we drank since then?
But so Budweiser, because they started sponsoring Casey, they created an entire new beverage,
and I had to have it.
To get to the light people that didn't want to drink Bud Light. So they created Bud Select
for Casey
during Casey's campaign. Now, he was always Budweiser. He always had Budweiser on the car. They only ran Bud Select like one time. It was absolutely gorgeous car. But Rusty and I drank Bud Select like it was going out of style. And we were Miller Lite guys before that.
Yeah.
And we're Miller Lite guys now. But, I mean, we drink, we're all over the map. You're in Seattle, so you're in the original hotbed for micros. Like, we're IPA junkies, ports, stouts, you name it. We're all over the map. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, if it's hot outside and I want a beer, I want a Miller Lite.
Yeah. No, I'm not even. So my best friend's a number 2 guy. So we have a nice little. That's our bet every weekend. But I'm a Miller Lite guy because they're a NASCAR. They sponsor NASCAR. So I'm either doing a Busch Latte or a Miller Lite. Even though
if somebody handed me a Busch, I would be happy to drink it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a Kevin Harvick fan, because I just the commercials, the branding, the fact that Anheuser-Busch InBev still wants to be a part of the sport. I love all of that. Right. So I'm happy to support it, you know.
That's exactly right.
And honestly, I'd rather have a Busch Light than a Budweiser or a Bud Light. I think it's a better beer. Yeah. I'd rather have a Natty than a Budweiser or a Bud Light.
That may be a couple inches too far.
Over the line.
Well, I know how they're made and why and what the recipes are, because I know somebody who works for Budweiser in Cartersville, Georgia. So there's not a lot of difference, as it turns out.
So I grew up in a really small town, logging town, fishing town, where we drank warm Natty Light occasionally. We couldn't get anything else, and I hope to never go back.
That was
I understand.
Beer of choice back in college. One thing I did want to ask about was I saw. This kind of jogged my memory. The next NASCAR, not NASCAR, whatever you call it, the Esports Pro Invitational is going to be up to a fan vote to determine the non-Cup Series driver. Now, that probably is fine nowadays, but I would say maybe 10, 12 years ago, leaving something up to an internet vote was kind of marketing suicide, I would say. And that's how we get, I won't even say names, but awful people to be elected the, whatever thing, or Bodie McBoatface. I remember that one. And for a while, that was kind of
that is interesting. I did not know that. So that really is. And now I'm curious. I may have to go talk to people, figure out what the strategy is.
So for a while there, online voting was kind of like I'll call it a marketing no-no. And I was curious, Jeremy, from your perspective, are there some other marketing no-no, like people are like, oh, we could do this, and you go, no, this is what's going to happen. And my wife deals with this a lot because she runs commencement for Georgia Tech, and she people will say oh no, we should do blah blah blah, and she's like, no, the students will tear that down. That's just what happens. And so if there's some from your perspective, marketing no-nos that you hear about.
I say marketing. I mean, one of the basis principles is never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So that broadly goes into what you're talking about. It's like it's more of hey, this can get out of control. So that's one I think about. I also think about when you were asking about advertising and some of that stuff creative before. Normally, if an advertisement is really embraced internally by a company, that is a red flag. Normally, because normally particularly engineers and marketers and others, we're typically not the customer, right? And so it's really like trying to figure out what the customer is going to resonate with the customer. So always when I'm talking about strategy, or if I'm in a group with some executives and everybody's going around the room nodding their head like, oh, that is great, red flag. Not necessarily means it's bad. It's just like, hey, let's make sure that this really resonates with our Bush Latte guys if we're selling Bush versus a bunch of middle-aged white guys sitting around a boardroom.
Well, that's important. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because you're right. Like if everybody in the room is drinking the Kool-Aid, then you're probably not drinking the same Kool-Aid as your customers drinking.
Yeah, that's right. And so many, a lot of time is spent on engineering, people actually creating product, trying to sell product on things that the company or the brand thinks is cool, faster, better, you name it, right? But not necessarily resonating with the target customer. So I think a little bit of effort, spend some time, try to put yourself in their shoes, understand how they're making decisions, how they're spending their hard-earned dollars, why they're spending their hard-earned dollars, what choices they have. Then figuring out, okay, now how am I going to make it easy for them to choose my product? That's really the science.
Well, so that you just said it. You said the words, and this is why I've been cussed out multiple times on Twitter for saying something along these lines. But what you just said is what makes sense, that aligns, and I'm not just agreeing with you because it aligns with my perspective, but make it easy for the customer to choose your product.
Oh, exactly.
And that's where I think NASCAR has slipped a little bit on consumer-based advertising versus B2B. Does B2B work? Absolutely it does. We know why it works. There's a whole lot of science and math and accounting behind why those things are working for NASCAR teams. What they don't target the, Joe and Fred and Franny and May who show up in the campground in a tent, with a little Weaver grill and their hamburgers.
You're right. Exactly.
And it is anything that they have bought to come to that race, somebody that's on a car. Well, if there's not, then that's a miss because that's your audience.
I think so. I mean, I so agree with what you're saying, but I don't see it as big of a trade-off. So I see in today's age and the way that we can market to different audiences, I think it's a miss if we have that. By the way, I love the infield experience. That is such a huge part. Just going around, I could tell you guys stories and show you pictures of
Talladega, baby.
Talladega, I've been down multiple times. I usually my coach is usually in a controlled area, but I go out to the normal areas. Be able to get away from some of it, but no, I mean seriously, I go around and tour and go have breakfast with people and sit in their coaches and talk to them about how and why and where they came from. It is an amazing experience. And so what I agree, Sherman, is that like if we as a sport are trying to convince those people, if we're taking any of their mind share with that B2B brand, it's a miss. I totally agree. But in today's day and age of marketing and the way that we can separate channels and the way we can have different communications through two different channels, it's not a trade-off. It's just up to marketers to do a better job of making sure the right audience is getting that right message.
Well, and so to your point on that and why it is valuable for the B2B side of what the sponsorship sport has, part of the sport has become, is you're not just selling, some VP on the idea that going to a race is fun. Yay. No, you're selling your software or whatever it is you're consulting to a company like Hendrick Motorsports, for instance, that has almost 1,000 employees. But in addition to that, outside the race team, has over 100 dealerships that need ERP programs to manage all of their accounting and inventory. So, like, I understand that, like, the finance around that makes a whole lot of sense. But Johnny and Johnny Jr. that show up to the race, they don't understand that. They want M&Ms and Daddy wants Miller Lite or Bud Light or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a different animal.
I completely agree. And, we're doing, by the way, the sport is, I was complaining about lug nuts earlier, and we're talking about some of the changes that are coming, mainly good, some challenging. But a huge part of this is to reduce the cost of operations, right? Because I was floored at the cost of sponsorship when I first got involved. Like I said, it was a hard justification to be involved. We had a strategy behind it that made sense, so we made the investment. But I've had, whether it's for Hendrick, I spent a lot of time with the team. I have a lot of close friends there. Pat Perkins, who runs marketing, Marshall, I've been involved in a lot of those conversations with potential sponsors, or for NASCAR. I've helped out there too, trying to introduce some more technology brands in the sport. It's a hard conversation. And so all the efforts that are going on to reduce the cost of entry so that more brands and more relevant consumer brands and more relevant, the type of brands you're talking about can get into the sport, that's all goodness. And I will tell you, I can't get into the specifics, but I'll tell you the cost of entry has dramatically decreased over the last few years. So now we'll be able to have more conversations with more brands, and that helps me be bullish about what we have coming hopefully in the next few years.
Well, based on everything that I've seen, Jeremy, the cost of running a cup team week to week is going to drop from somewhere around 1.2 million to about 600,000.
Yeah, it's a factor like that. It is, you heard some of these contracts, not to name some, they were 40 million plus for a year. And now we're down to, some of the top contracts, less than half of that. That just happened over less than a decade. We see what's happening with next gen car, some of the team restrictions that are happening. It's, in terms of reducing that cost of entry, it is goodness. And I think it will be able, that combined, I think, with the excitement that we're generating this sport with fans and some new fans, I am bullish that we're going to see some more brands, whether it's DoorDash. I mean, look at some of these, we've got DoorDash and some of the other ones that are coming. I think we're doing
well, I mean, just think about it from an excitement perspective. Think about, Michael Jordan and Bubba Watson now own a piece of a car that runs in Cup.
Yeah.
Freaking Pitbull runs.
Pitbull, exactly.
He owns a piece of a car that runs in Cup.
LeBron last week.
Like, we've got this. The diversity profile is certainly opened up, but it's not just diversity. It's crossover between sports. Like, you've got a golfer, you got the greatest basketball player who ever lived, and you've got an R&B singer who everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
And he's Cuban.
Yeah.
He's Cuban American. And so all that's good. That's all good.
Yeah. And we're doing it, and this is one of the things I like that Phelps and team have talked about. We're doing it without moving away from the core fan, right? We're not trying to change who we are. We're still embracing what NASCAR is. We're trying to reduce the cost. We're trying to attract some more people into the tent, and we're being successful about it.
So at the same time that the sport may be running away from the old school guy or running him out just because they're like, man, I miss the days when they used to smoke cigarettes and win races by 11 laps.
Some of those folks in my life, yep.
I mean, and so that lore is great. It's in history books and it's on film in a history movie. But it's 2021 and we have to recreate that audience. And the way to do that is we have to bring, the age 5 to age 15 people to the point where they're like, I can't miss this. I got to have it. Mm-hmm. I got to have race cars in my life, and that's it. Definitely. And that, that means that, okay, so if you jettison 65 to 80, I'll take 15 to 15 because they've got 60 years of money to spend in the sport.
Yeah.
As long as we're true to our brand. I mean, I was not involved as NASCAR in this mid period of my life where I think when I look back, it looks like the brand moved away and tried to become mainstream per se. And so I think so long as we embrace what we are about racing. We are about these personalities. We are about small roots. There's some really core things that we're about. And so long as we embrace those as we try to attract those new audiences. And we do innovative things like eNASCAR and bring in some new audiences.
Well, and to your point, they really have done a pretty good job of analyzing the situations that get a little weird and been pretty cool with it. Like doing this, NASCAR's kind of like, he was mad. Okay, whatever.
Oh yeah, come on. Some of the rivalries and some of the stuff ups and kerfuffles, and I mean that's what makes our sport. Come on, I think we all enjoy it.
They don't even find them anymore for it. They don't even they just go, yeah, that's okay. Yep. All right, that's fine. Yeah. However you do it, say you do it. If they're talking about us because you flick somebody off, that's better than them not talking about us.
I think that's part of our brand, though. I think embracing that. We can't. There's of course limits and lines and all those types of things, but I think having some of those just visceral reactions and having some, really strong, strong folks and some strong personalities involved is like Kyle Busch. My son and my son's a big fan. So I remember we were standing next to Kyle Busch, and I said, "Will, do you want to get Kyle's signature?" And he's like, "Hell no." And so neither one of us, we're just not Kyle Busch fans, but oh my God, having Kyle in the sport, it is awesome having Kyle in the sport, right? And those personalities, even the ones that you're not a big fan of, if they can bring something and bring some tension and bring some emotion to the sport, come on, bring them in.
Well, yeah. I mean, not to hyper focus on that particular bucket, but yes, Kyle Busch is absolutely wonderful for NASCAR. He is NASCAR to a T, because what he does is he pisses off half the people, and half the people are impressed by what he's doing.
And everybody knows his name.
And that's it's Vegas, baby.
Yeah. I feel like we've gotten almost an hour of free consulting here. It's probably $1 billion worth. We've gotten, one thing I was wondering in your current speaking of consulting, in your current consulting firm, how many times has somebody come to the table and you go, well, there's NASCAR. Have you thought about that yet? Is that a go-to?
So no, I have introduced quite a few folks and brands to NASCAR. And by the way, I find that to be an absolute pleasure. I get to bring some folks, some executives from some of the brands. I find it an amazing opportunity to take some of my clients, be able to go out, So taking one of those executives to a race and be able to spend all day with them in an authentic situation, it is gold for me. But then when they see the sport, it's good. So I'm a big evangelist. I think there's some more brands, not all brands. It's not a sport for all brands like we were talking about earlier, but I think the road we're going down is good. And I'm going to keep introducing some more.
Fantastic.
Rock and roll.
We're looking forward to getting back to the track. Sherwin, did you get your second poke, or was that next week? I can't remember.
Tuesday next week.
Okay, just got mine on Friday, so I'm over the hump now. I'm in Passaville. Let's wait until it's time to get back to the track. So we'll let.
I'm telling you, as soon as Brandon says. I'm gonna call Brandon as soon as we're done on the show, and then if he says yes, I'm buying the ticket to Scranton Wilkes Bar. That's happening.
There you go.
Boom! I love it. I cannot not do it. Keep me updated on the progress on that. I'm looking forward to it. Jeremy, do you have plans to go to a track here shortly?
I'm just kind of waiting for it to break open. I've had lots of buddies invite me to, different races or, go with the team, et cetera. And like we were talking about earlier, I think before the show, is just wait till it gets back to normal. I'm an infield guy. I love hanging out and doing all the infield stuff. So when we get back to that, sign me up. But I'll wait until then.
Absolutely. So I tell you what, I feel like I've been waiting for a year and a half now. Well, just over a year, I guess, because it was Atlanta that we were supposed to go to, and I remember texting calling Sherwin, and I was like, dude, I'm not feeling it, and I'm talking about 30 minutes later, they're like, we've canceled the race, and that kind of started the whole ordeal, and it has been since then. Hadn't been to a race obviously at all last year because that would have been our first one, so. The last one before that, I can't even remember what it would have been because we were, going to Georgia Tech games in the fall. So either way, probably Darlington? Question mark? Sherwin?
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, because Bristol was in the fall. Yeah, I think it was Darlington of 2019, the last race we were actually at.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy, just for brief history, like our relationship with Atlanta Motor Speedway looks a whole lot like this. Hey, are y'all coming to the race? Yep, we're planning on coming to the race. Okay, well, here are your credentials, and here's your sticker that says no one can tell you where you can't go.
I love that.
And so, like, it's even better than, it's almost as good as a hard card.
I love that.
And it's like, even the person that gave it to us that runs their social media was like, did you go everywhere you were supposed to go? And we're like, yeah. She's like, did you find a place that maybe you shouldn't have been? Yeah, we found that too. And she's like, good, that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, we knocked on the door of
that's what that sticker's for. Go somewhere where somebody tells you no. And tell them, no, I've got a sticker.
I look forward to hanging out with you guys at Pocono when time allows. Like I said, infield. When I say infield, by the way, I mean like camping. I love the camping experience, the cooking out, the going and hanging out with other fans. Yes. So I cannot wait.
We have tent camped at Atlanta Motor Speedway for 15 years.
Yep.
Yeah, that.
And people are like, well, you guys could probably do a camper. And we're like, yeah, but
we could.
It's not the same thing as being in the campground with the tent folk.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to do that at Pocono, and I was talking to Ben May, and he's like, the first year I went to Pocono, it was a beautiful weekend. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. We had a beautiful weekend, the entire weekend. So I said, hey, I'm bringing my son back. We're going to pitch a tent. And he's like, this weekend we're getting maybe some weather. I'm like, I don't know, it's going to be fine. So anyway, we ended up staying with a couple buddies in their trailer. But, oh, man, we got one of those Pocono storms. And there were a lot of tent campers, and those are serious campers. I respect those folks.
We've been in some of that.
Well, Bristol spring ran us off because we had a couple bad experiences there because we were in the bottoms down there by the drag strip, and you don't want to be in the bottoms when the rain starts at Bristol.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work out good.
Gentlemen,
missed a few races. And go ahead, Rusty.
We're running up on time, so I wanted to make sure that we got to our picks here, and I'm going to go ahead and play it. Here it is. I kind of whoa, look out! I might have played that.
Oh yeah, we skip. So Jeremy, this is the perfect kind of podcast because we skipped our entire show sheet.
Yeah.
We basically didn't do any of it.
Right.
Which means you were so interesting that we didn't need it.
Exactly. So let's see, Martin.
I am sorry for your listeners.
No, not at all.
We may have to do some what we call after dark on the YouTube if you're willing to stick around for about 15 minutes. We'll hit some of the show sheet after that won't show up on iTunes.
There you go. Martin Truex won. Jennifer Jo Cobb's going to make her debut. Let's see. Greg Galding and Joe Graff Jr. fought. Cool article that I was going to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Let's talk about Richmond. Going to Richmond, and you know what? It's really time to do some picks. So, Jeremy, we let our guest go first, so please inform us who you got for Richmond.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm loyal to a fault, so I'm a Hendrick guy overall. So my question is always, which of the four cars is going to end up in victory lane? This year's been, we've been running pretty good, but I'm not even looking at stats. I cannot wait to get Bowman, the 48, into victory lane, and so I'm picking Bowman this weekend.
Bowman, I love it.
Good stuff.
So Sherwin, last week, for the first time in like 5 weeks, I picked Joey for the double.
You beat me.
And he finished 6th. And Blaney, who you picked, finished 11th. So, good sir, it is your turn for a pick.
Well, I'm going to go total homer. Since I didn't last week, which was probably a good idea, even though he finished 2nd.
Yes.
And was running down the leader coming to the finish, I'm picking Chase Elliott.
My man.
Another good pick.
Well done. Here's what's so hard is I was all ready for my pick even before this last weekend's race. I'm like, all right, I got to beat on this thing. He's already won last 2 out of 3 there. He's always finishing high there. And then he goes and wins Martinsville. So I'm going for the double 2 weeks in a row. So double here. We're going Truex. And you know, it feels like what I'm doing here is the board. I'm playing roulette, and it just went red. So obviously it's going to go red again. But it went black, so I'm like, okay, well, obviously it's gonna do black again.
Oh yeah.
And so I keep picking the doubles.
Well, so
I feel like
what you need.
Say it again, Sherwin.
Well, you need. Sorry, I don't know if my internet's cutting out or yours. I can't tell, but you need 70 laps or less. Because Truex is new tire roasting Jeff. Because if Chase is in 2nd and there's 90 laps to go, Chase is winning the race.
Dude, no doubt.
Chase is the new Casey Kane in that respect, for that matter, and drive in the right car number and everything. So awesome. With that, folks. I've had an absolute blast hanging out with Jeremy. And, Jeremy, we'd love to invite you on again at some point, talk about racing, talk about marketing, all this stuff. This is so much fun for us, and we can't thank you enough for hanging out and, saying yes and just saying, yeah, sure, I'll hang out and talk NASCAR for a little bit. And we probably talked more shop. I don't know. If somebody invited me on a podcast and said, hey, we're going to talk about programming or software development for an hour, I'd probably be like, I'd rather talk about NASCAR, but we appreciate you hanging out and going with the flow with us.
No, hey, thanks for the invite, guys. I do look forward to coming back, but moreover, I look forward to seeing you guys at a track sometime in person.
Absolutely. Yep. So sure.
We're good about being places where people are.
Yep. Sherwin, why don't you close us out? Tell the folks where they can find us.
All right, well, I'm not sure if your internet's going out or mine, but everybody can find us at PTM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at PTMPodcast.com, and you can find me at Pregame Engineer on Twitter and at Andrew L. Sherwin on Instagram.
He said it, PTMPodcast.com, at PTM Podcast on Twitter. As always, I'm Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor. Can't wait to talk to y'all next week, see what happens over at Richmond. I'll be rooting for Chase. I will be hoping for Truex, so we'll see what happens. Can't wait to see y'all next week. Talk to you then. There we go, gentlemen. That concludes the recorded session. We're still live on YouTube, hanging out with folks. Jeremy, absolute blast.
We're off Vox, but we're still on Vox.
Yeah. And like Sherwin
so the
said,
thing we wanted to talk about that we didn't get to. Oh, damn. I don't know what the hell's going on with the internet. It's got to be you, dude. Everything on my end is working just fine.
Maybe so. I run out of internet at like 10 p.m. I all the bits that can happen have happened, but yeah, I was just going to say right quick, Jeremy, Sherwin already said it, that whenever we pretty much skip a whole show sheet, that means we're like, yep, we're having fun and enjoying the
Cool.
company of our guests.
Cool. I enjoyed that one quick. For me, sorry for the viewers,
Same.
but
Yeah,
the
same.
listeners.
Well, no, they won't be sorry because they'll like it the same way we did. The thing that we didn't hit that I feel like is necessary because it doesn't need to wait a week is Josh Berry winning for Junior in the Xfinity car, and how special that was for Junior, because he's been trying for 3 years to get Josh a regular ride in one of his cars, and they finally figured it out. And I got the rest of his podcast to listen to after this, but like just to know that there was that much emotion for him, like you just know how important Josh Berry is to him and his company and him personally. Like that's so cool.
Yeah, that is, and having a chance, I can't, I don't even call Junior an acquaintance. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him, I'd say, but from what I've observed and the people that I know him well is just, and this goes for just so many of the drivers in our sport, just the real people they are. And I think we take that for granted sometimes in our sport compared to some others. And like I said, I've been involved in some others, and so it is true. And Junior is just such a genuine human being, and so to see that real emotion come out, you just know it's like that is real emotion.
Well, and I think one of the things people have started to see now that Junior is not in the race car and he's on the microphone or he's doing his podcast, which ends up on television, like people are exposed to him in a different way. Mm-hmm. They're starting to understand what I mean, I'm not taking credit for this, but I said it 15 years ago. I'm like, Junior's a lot smarter dude than most people are giving him credit for. Because he's the guy that used to show up with the bleached hair and the hat backwards, and, he was a punk. And I'm like, this kid's smarter than you think. Just watch. Just keep watching. And eventually you'll learn on your own. And now we all know that he's very cerebral in nature.
Yeah, no, it's definitely understands. I mean, his old man knew about how to work with his brand. Junior knows how to work with his. Junior's got an amazing team around him. I know some of the guys on the team, still with Junior Motorsports, and some of his folks work for Junior, and he's got a really strong team. He's a smart guy. His sister Kelly, of course, is super, super smart. So you surround yourself with good people. You're good. You all play to your strengths, and good things happen.
Yeah, Kelly is an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
Good for Junior to have that resource available to him. Good for him that he could employ her and put her in a role that she could absolutely smash as CEO of Junior Motorsports. And it worked out. It's worked out swimmingly.
Be able to take your sister and trust her to do some of those things. That's it was a smart move. Really smart move.
Well, and I was having this conversation offline with somebody the other day, and I said, the whole time, the reason why, because somebody had sent out a picture of a baseball bat that was given to a baseball player that had a monumental event who also liked NASCAR, and it had Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s full signature on it, like the whole name. And I was like, oh yeah, that was back when Dale could actually sign his whole name. Because he's not allowed to do that now. Because DEI actually owns
isn't
that trademark. That's how much of a what his stepmother is.
Yeah, I actually just caught a documentary about that just a couple of weeks ago. So I've known tangentially, because again, I wasn't involved in the sport for a good period of my life, and so I missed some of that. But I caught a bit of a documentary, and I was like, wow, floored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he left DEI because he discovered that Teresa wasn't going to give it to him.
Yeah.
And the whole point of DEI, from Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s perspective, was, I want to give my son a racing business. And she was like, nah. And so Dale immediately devalued his signature, his full signature, by going to the Dale Jr. thing, because she wouldn't let him have the trademark without having to pay DEI residuals. He's like, all right, fine, I'll do my own thing. Peace out. I'm out of here.
Yeah, who's got the name?
Me gone. Like, who's the brand? Like, we talked about Michael Jordan and Pitbull. They don't need to do any marketing. They're Michael Jordan and Pitbull. Everybody knows who they are. Their name is a brand. So like they don't need anybody's help.
Right.
Dale Jr. doesn't need anybody's help. Everybody knows who Dale Earnhardt Jr. is. Even people who don't even know what racing is know who Dale Earnhardt Jr. is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he needs help with is figuring out every minute of his day, the however many minutes there are in a year, is who that brand should get access to, or who should get access to that brand, right? And that's where you bring some smart people together to help you make sure that, hey, who are the right brands, the right events, the right forums, whatever it is, the right people that you engage with, because that's what with someone we've got something valuable like that, whether you're Pitbull or Dale Jr., you need that's good help to have.
Well, there's where Kelly comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and Dale is like, "You're better at this. Can you do this? Would you like to do this?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yes."
Heck yeah.
And everybody has won ever since. Literally won ever since.
Yeah. Jeremy, I know it's getting close to dinner time for you. Don't want to, hold you back.
Yeah, in fact, I just had my Lisa was just at the window beckoning me to come join her and the kids. So I think I'm going to have to take off.
Right on.
I do. I'm going to go do that, so I stay in good graces because I know who the boss is around here.
We would not want to interrupt that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be able. But no, hey, I really do appreciate it, guys. Look forward to seeing you and the rest of the PTM posse at a track, and join again when the time's right for you guys.
That's awesome, Jeremy. It's been a blast.
Great. Yeah, good. Talk later, guys.
Thank you much.
Bye.
Another one in the books.
Another weird one in the books, but good weird.
Oh, in the right way. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we do this for us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And then hopefully other people like it.
Yep. I'm getting the thing done here, and I'm going to go ahead and say good night to the YouTubers. Thank y'all for hanging out. It's been a blast. Hope y'all enjoyed it like we did. So
thank you, Lisa and Roger. They were probably the most active, and Deb from Fast Lap.
Sweet.
They were all on.
Hey, yeah, good to see y'all. We'll see y'all next time, and until then, peace out.